Thanks for coming here because I think discussion of this nature is healthy and really useful. And even though we might all disagree up here about one or more of these points, the point is that we're having dialogue, and that's important in America, and one of the freest places in the world that we can do this openly and have disagreements. My much smarter than me counterpart here on the right has discussed Keynesian economics. In its simplest format, Keynesian economics is often reduced down to a definition of gross domestic product. Gross domestic product is a sum of consumer spending, investment, and government spending, plus net exports. And there you have it. That's the U.S. economy. That's what GDP is. And largely spending under Keynesian modeling is viewed as, if we're not having consumer spending, and if we're not having investment, we will spur the economy and maintain or grow our GDP through government spending. Hence the idea of a stimulus, more government spending. Now, toward that end, we are being forced to very difficult choices because just a few months ago, and by the way, wonderful summary of how we got into this mess. Most of you had never even heard of derivatives. And if I say, what's a credit default swap, you probably don't know or care about what that might be. But these offshore, largely unregulated financial environments have produced a serious problem. And today, we have several crises that have arisen. One, we have a banking and financial crisis. There's no credit for nobody. It's a problem. I have clients every day that I sit down and talk to whose lines of credit for profitable, successful companies who have long-standing banking relationships that are quality in nature, and their lines of credit are frozen or eliminated. That's normal today. People can't buy homes. People can't do much of anything in terms of obtaining credit. This is a terrible problem, and it's shutting businesses down across the country. If you can't buy inventory, if you can't get a loan, you can't buy inventory. If you can't buy inventory, you can't sell the inventory. If you can't sell the inventory, pretty soon you shut your doors. There's other crises going on, though, and we have lots of reasons how we got here. A lack of regulation in some environments, and frankly, greed, bizarre things that went on, and some of the stories that you read are shocking. If we're not going to do the stimulus package, if spending is not the way to restore stability to this economy, what are the reasonable alternatives being tendered in the marketplace of ideas? And there is one. We will reduce taxes. I love that argument. I'm a tax lawyer, by golly. Now I'm going to make a confession. I was born in 1952. Yes, Noah was my friend. 1952 is a good year, and do you know what the highest income tax rate was in 1952? 91%. You could pay 91 cents on the dollar to the federal government for the privilege of living in America and earning your keep. Over time, this is reduced down. It eventually reduced down into the 70s. It was about 70%. Eventually, it dropped down to 50%. And in the Reagan administration, we had a reduction down to the 30s. Today, we have a 35% rate. If we have a 35% rate today, and that's a lower rate than it has been historically, how is it that we're in the terrible problem? If reducing taxes is the answer, how'd we get here? Because we've got the lowest rates essentially since the Depression. Not likely. We can't really say that Reagan would even agree with that. To be candid, Reagan chose to reduce taxes as a method of unlocking captive capital in America that was being not turned over in our economy because the tax rate was too high. So he reduced capital gains in particular, inverted the corporate and individual tax rate structure, and by doing that, created incentives for people to do more and be more. Tax revenue collection went up during the Reagan administration, but it was a bigger pie. a bigger pie, even at reduced rates, generated more dollars. It was a brilliant identification of the problem and finding the solution. I challenge any of you here today to say you know that the problem in America today is that our capital is captive. That's not the problem. Everybody's worried about, do we have any capital this week, or did it evaporate? America has always required leadership of its folks, and I think this is no different a time. We have to lead by doing something. We're doing the best we can right now. I think the way to do it is to spend some money.